I met a man they called Jesus. I'd never seen him before. He came to town on a donkey, and the people threw him a parade. I don't know why. Probably because no one ever bothers to tell me anything. They just think I'm a small, useless girl. But he must be really important. They were laying their cloaks on the road for the donkey to walk on. I began to wonder, who is this man? Would he too treat me and the other children the way the people do in the village? I smiled and waved my palm as he rode by, and he nodded his head and smiled back. I never had an adult smile at me before. It made me feel good. It made me feel important. After the parade, I felt the need to talk to the kind man. He asked me who I was, he asked me what I do, and he also wanted to know about my thoughts. I had never met anybody who cared who I was and wanted to know about me. I spoke my mind, and he listened. I felt so important, like I could do anything in the world.
Thank you, Jordan. Absolutely beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. We're going to hear from other characters throughout the week. Here it is, Palm Sunday. Did you all notice the quote that was out on the marquee? It is the foundation of the house that we are building on this Holy Week. For those who did not see it, let me remind you what it says. Real transformation requires real honesty. We had an idea what we were going to talk about today, and then I started to do a dance with Mary Allison. And it was a wonderful, beautiful dance of finding a place of agreement. It was a place of honesty. And in the honesty, our dialogue went to a deeper place, and transformation began to happen. That's what this whole week is about, getting real. Are you okay with getting real with yourselves today? To stand completely, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, naked and go, this is who I am. I got stuff. I got lots of stuff. Why are you shaking your head no, Richard? We all have stuff except Richard Croker. I think Terry's got a list, Richard. I hate to tell you. But the reality is the Palm Sunday story is the entrance into this week of transformation, and it is ripe with symbology that is necessary. Things that we need to implement and to use in order to have a transformation. We're making our journey to the city of peace, Jerusalem. How many people would be okay if at the end of this week, life got a little bit more peaceful? Well, sure, that we're one. We are absolutely one in that quest for more peace internally and more peace externally. It's unfortunate that the world has given so much power to what is happening externally or what happened 2,000 years ago. But Jerusalem lives in us today. It lives in us at such a deep place that unless we get rid of the distractions out here and take the journey inward, we will never get to the place of becoming the butterfly that we know ourselves to be. And so Jesus gave us a prescription. I'm going to talk just a brief time today to bring Bob and Mary Allison up here, but I want to give you a little bit of the symbology that is the foundation for the walk that we are having this week. First and foremost, number one, what does Jesus do before he goes into the city of Jerusalem? He goes to the Mount of Olives. Our job, first and foremost, is to go to the highest consciousness. When we know that we're going to be facing the darkness, the difficulty, the pain, the denials, the betrayals, boy, we better be prayed up. We better be in alignment with what is true about our divine nature. Now, all the apostles and hundreds of others kept telling Jesus, don't go there. Don't go there. It's dangerous. It's dark. You might lose your life. Anybody here have a dream, a vision, and your whole family just didn't understand it, just didn't get it, and said, don't go there. Don't go there. Don't waste your time. You're going to fail. Somebody might resist you. Somebody might not like it. What did Jesus do? He said, no, I have to walk smack dab right into the middle of where that danger is. I have to face it head on. I have to be completely me and not run away from the challenges of this human experience so that Christ can be born first and foremost in his own mind and then in the core of humanity. The transformation begins with one, knowing who you are, and number two, not giving the power away to the danger. Not giving the power away to the critics. not giving the power away to anybody who is judging you as anything less than the light that you are. It starts here, and then it goes out here. What's the first thing that Jesus does when he says, I'm going to make my way into Jerusalem? He tells the apostles, go get me a donkey. Not a magnificent steed. Those were used for war. He was not a man of war. He had to change the paradigm of what everybody thought he was going to do, to ride in with a sword. No, get me a donkey, but not just any donkey. Go get me a young one. You must become like a child to enter the kingdom of heaven. There's a humility. Step number 3 on the journey to transformation is to just be humble. And if there's anybody sitting here today that you think you have all the answers to life and you've got it all figured out, you're not going to make it to the resurrection. You might get stuck in a tomb somewhere along the journey. Humble myself to go, I got human stuff. I got stuff I have to deal with. And he asks his apostles to throw clothes atop the back of the donkey. I'll get into the clothes in a minute, and we're going to have a ritual. I promise you, you won't be asked to get naked today. At least not physically. So he gets on the donkey, and he's making his way, a young donkey. No parades, no crashing cymbals, no lightning, no swords, and a humble man. And everybody told him, don't go there. Don't go there. 4th step, you got to be vulnerable. You've got to be vulnerable. Know who you are. Don't listen to the voice of the critics. Be humble enough to own your human stuff. And then be vulnerable to let it out there. Go turn over the carts of your insides. Go turn over the carts of your guts and say, here world, here I am, for all to look at. Transformation might be needed here. You see, we're all perfect spiritually, but we've got a lot of things to do to come into congruity with the spiritual truth. And when we can stand open and receptive to each other, that transformation can happen. And what happens? The insides of you begin to sing Hosanna. Hosanna in the highest. If you trace the etymology back to the Aramaic of the word Hosanna, right at the root of that word is the idea, I'm ready to be changed at depth. This week has the potential that on the other end of it, you will never be the same person again, but you have to be willing, step number 5 in this process. I have to be willing to be changed at depth, or I never become the butterfly. I will be stuck in a cocoon. And they're waving the palm branches. You know, I thought it was perfect that there was a threat. Oh my gosh, there's going to be tornadoes. You know, we were watching the news last night, Susie and I, and it said, horrible, terrible hail and tornadoes between the hours of 9 and 12:30 tomorrow morning. As a minister, I'm going to be doing this talk alone. Mary Allison and I will be here, and we'll just continue the dance. The reality is, a palm branch on the outside, it moves. It's flexible. Flexibility is part of this. I don't think there was necessarily a plan that he had laid out. He says, I'm going to go with the flow and be open and receptive to whatever I'm called to do and be ready to jump at any moment, on his toes, ready to do. Sometimes it was to go forward, sometimes it was to go back, and sometimes it was to cry. And sometimes it was to be angry. And sometimes it was to be so frustrated. And sometimes, down to the core, it was to be afraid. He didn't hide. He poured the cart of his insides out all over the temple before the presence of God and said, we got to look at some stuff. Palm Sunday is about looking at our stuff and then laying down that which is no longer needed for the transformation. But you can't heal what you don't feel. You cannot heal what you don't play out and lay out and go, yep, I got stuff to look at. A little known part of this story, and then I'm going to stop and bring Bob Simon back up here and Shannon. Nobody ever talks about it. Clothes are being, no, not yet. We're going to do the ritual first. Sorry. I'm human. Did you notice? Clothes are being thrown down. They're not just waving palm branches and saying, I'm willing to change at depth. They're taking off their clothes and they're throwing them in the path. Shedding the layers of what is between them and the arrival of the light, the new paradigm, the new consciousness, the new idea. They're lining the streets with that which is no longer needed. They're laying it down. And so the question and the challenge as we walk into this week that can change your world is, what are you willing to lay down? What are you willing to give up so that you can shine as the light of the world that he knew you were, that we know who you are, that every master teacher and sage throughout history knew that you were? Is it judgment? Is it resentment? Is it the anger that controls your life? Is it the knee-jerk response that you have every time when you get defensive? That was full disclosure, by the way. That's what I'm working on, and I'm willing to lay that down. We are going to have a ritual right now, and I'm not going to ask you to take off your clothes, but I am going to ask you to open your mind, your heart, and your spirit to the song that we're about to sing. And in your bulletin was a card. And if you don't have a card or inside that bulletin, it's got a little palm branch on it. The ushers have those cards. Put your hand up and they will get you one. Julie's going to lead you through this song into a place of releasing that which is no longer necessary. If you want the resurrection, if you want the transformation, if you want to be the butterfly, and you want the full expression of the light that you are, don't just take this as a simple little ritual, but be fully active, fully participating, because you're walking into Jerusalem and it might get dark. There might be betrayals. There might be denials. There might be tombs, and I hope to God that there are crucifixions, because the crucifixion is necessary for the becoming. The song is called Lay Down. It's got a bluesy feel. So if you're so inclined to get into your blues heart while we do this, do so, because it will help the process.
Yeah, let it get into your soul. Thank you to Mike Marinelli for giving us some saxophone.
Cheering crowd, I hear them shout out loud. I see them waving palms on the road to town. Follow their searching gaze, peer through the dust and haze. Watch them lay down their cloaks. What are you laying down? Lay down your pride. Lay down your soul. Lay down your heart. Lay down, lay down, lay down your pride. Lay down your soul. Lay down your heart. He comes. All branches wave. Lay it down. Lay it down. Lay it down. Lay it down. Lay it down on the road to town. But when his gate lay it down, 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 lay it down. What are you laying down? Lay down your pride. Lay down your soul. Lay down your all. Lay down, lay down, lay down your pride. Lay down your soul. Lay down your all. He comes.
So as the music comes down, let those words and that energy wash over you. Begin to think, what are you going to lay down? What no longer serves your highest and best? What can you lay down and pick up no more on the road to peace in your life? What does not serve you anymore? Guilt, comparison, that's mine. Judgment of yourself or others. This is your time to lay it down no more. It's not yours. So I'm going to invite you to take a deep breath, take your card out of your bulletin, and as you're led, as that phrase, as that thing you're laying down comes to you, write it on the paper, write it on the card, and as you're led, we're going to come down the center aisle. This is important because there's a lot of you. Come down the center aisle, and I want you to throw it in the trash can and be very intentional about it because you don't need it. Come down the center aisle, throw it away, and then make your way up the side aisles to your seat. So as you're led, hold that card. It may have served you in the past, but no more. And then as you feel led, make your way down and throw it, lay it down, because it is done. It is no more.
The first step to transformation, you just did it. You laid it down. You gave it up. Now you've opened your heart, not only for the resurrection, for the light that you are, but for Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer. Welcome back. Whew.
Screaming in the streets.
Okay, we already heard from them, but I want to just give you a little bit more information. We all know Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer. We do. But they are on their tour, and they're coming through Atlanta this whole week. They are with us this morning, and they're going to come to our Wednesday night communion service and do a whole bunch of songs. So please, please make sure you're here. On Tuesday, they're leading a musical meditation journey and concert at Helium Center. That's cool. And Shannon is a shaman, and she is offering a one-on-one shamanic divination sessions today and tomorrow in Richard's office. So you guys have a table, right? Sorry, I'm out of breath from laying it down. So they're going to be in Richard's office. Shannon's going to be doing sessions today and tomorrow. Please be sure to stop by their table. That's where you'll schedule a session. They've got CDs, they've got product, they can tell you where they'll be. And they thankfully have it on a thumb drive. No more CDs, right? They will not be back in Atlanta till July. So take advantage of Shannon and the sessions. Make sure you're here Wednesday, and I may be back to tell you a little bit more. Mark their calendar Sunday, July 28th at Eddie's Attic. Will you please welcome again Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer?
That was a mouthful. Wow. Whew. Well, we were going to do a blues song, but that's already been done. That was really powerful. I mean, we were in the front row and got to witness some of you, all of you, throwing it down, and and the environmentally conscious part of me was like, well, that's all on paper. I hope they recycle that. And I thought, no, let's not recycle these things. Let's let them go. Let them go completely. So we're going to do this song. I know we did this before. Is it okay to repeat a song at Unity North? It just fits. It's about going through the darkness, and it's about transformation, and it's about you. No mud, no lotus. Haven't you noticed the patterns of the pain in your past? The things that broke you, they also woke you to the questions you needed to ask. Sleepless nights and the dizzying heights and the dreams, some of which came true. Tough breaks, heartaches, perfect mistakes created this version of you. And everything you go through grows you. Grows you. And everything you go through grows you. Exposes who you are. If it hurt, it made you softer. If it was hard, it fueled the hunger. If it touched you, your heart took hold. If it was simple, it made you wise. If it was sweet, it made you smile. Weaved an indelible impression on your soul. Your feet, they walked, and your lips, they talked, and your hands dug around for the proof. Every look, every book, picture in your mind that you took created this version of you. And everything you go
exposes the roots of an endless summer, part-time temporary lovers, and the swoon of the deep blue sky. And as the time flew, you planted and gathered your truth as it passed before your eyes. And the wound is where the light gets in, revealing the masterpiece just beneath the skin. And in the glow of your own light, your petals open wide, and you bloom right where you are. And everything you go through grows you, and everything you go through grows you, exposes who you are. No mud, no lotus, haven't you noticed the patterns of the pain in your past? The things that broke you, well, they also awoke you to the questions that you needed to ask. Thank you. Thank you.
So beautiful. One of my favorites. Thank you for doing that today. You know, I feel like the salesman on the TV who says, wait, there's more. We got the Ginzu knives. When I first came to this community, it's about 10, 11 years ago, I was the youth ed director. And I met a cadre of wonderful teens. And I met Mary Allison Melton. And I said, there's something special here. Something really special here. And then she started dating my grandson. And I went, oh God, if only. What if TJ married Mary Allison Melton? Because there was something very, very special there. She has been on a quest, on a journey since leaving here around the country, learning, growing, stretching, and I think discovering what I already saw in her is how uniquely special, beautiful, and powerful she is. And when I knew that she was going to be back in our area today, I said, you know, she's got an open door invitation to my heart and an open door invitation to this community. She is dynamic and wonderful. Please welcome Mary Allison Melton.
Hello, how are you guys? Oh, this is so much fun to be here today. I've never heard the name Mary Allison Melton before. I never used the name Melton, so that's interesting. So thank you for having me. I feel like that name sounds a bit country. Mary Allison Melton. And I'm really happy to be with you today. I do want to let you know that I lost my contacts, so if I'm looking into your eyes, it's not personal. I'm just confused. Yeah, I just see a sea of colors right now. So that's an interesting experience. So this is great. So Richard invited me up here. I really appreciate it. And he said that I could talk about darkness. And I thought that was wonderful. And then he said there's going to be a giant trash can in front of you. And I said, great, that's beautiful. I love trash. I love it. I love the unconscious. Anything dark gets me excited. I get almost like high off of darkness. Like if a friend comes to me and says I'm going through a breakup, I'm like, ooh, yeah, yes, let's sit down with that. Let's figure it out. Let's peel this onion, you know? Like, what is it bringing us? What message? So for me, darkness makes me more excited. because I often feel like darkness is honesty. And I feel like when people are bringing me positivity, it's usually false. And so that's boring to me. You know, like if you're going to parade around and dance and be like, oh, everything's perfect. I don't know. I don't feel like everything's perfect. I tell you, like, I moved away from here to Sedona, Arizona. Ooh, life has been hard. I have had some crazy things happen. So I feel like to be drenched in darkness sometimes is one of the most humble ways to reconnect to spirit for me. And I'm really happy to talk about darkness today. And when I was thinking about what should I talk about, I had this memory come back from when I was in my early 20s. And I was staying at a hippie arts farm in Asheville, North Carolina. If you could take a portion of Woodstock from the 70s and dissect it and spit it out in Asheville, you would find me and some friends dancing around every morning. We were living the hippie life. That was my only commitment to life, was being a hippie. And it was so beautiful, and I was very goofy back then. I'm very goofy now, but I was like even more goofy back then. And I remember one time my friend said, let's go to the grocery store. I said, okay. We got there, and she said, get on my back. I want to give you a piggyback ride. And I said, that's great. So I jumped on her back, and we're dancing around the store together and singing. And then this employee came up to us, and she said, ma'am, you're acting like a child. Get off of her back. You're going to hurt the produce. You're going to hurt another person. And I jumped off of her back. I was reprimanded. And I don't know what came over me, but in that moment, the energy felt dark. It felt intense. It was awkward. I felt guilty for a second, and guilt is a certain kind of darkness. Guilt is really, really intense. And I looked into this woman's eyes, the employee who reprimanded me, and I just started singing. It's your birthday, happy birthday, it's your birthday now. And I don't know why I was doing that. I don't know if it was her birthday. I don't know what was happening. I just wanted to sing to this woman for some reason. I know what you're thinking. She was on acid or something. No, yeah. I wasn't on acid. No. I was just having a beautiful time. And this woman, she cracked a smile, and she just started dancing with us. And all of a sudden, we're these three people. It's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. And it was so much fun. And then we left. And that, to me, was a beautiful moment, an alchemical moment of taking darkness and turning it into such light. And I feel like that's what we're all here to do, and that's why we love puppies, because that's what they do. They turn darkness into light. You have a really grumpy old man, you give him a puppy, he's not a grumpy old man anymore, you know? Yeah. So we're here to be puppies for each other today, right? You know? So as I talk about darkness, I want to talk about the body, because I feel like the body is a microcosm of the macrocosm that is this reality before us. And inside the body lives white blood cells, and some of these white blood cells are called neutrophils. And these neutrophils live for only a few hours once they enter into the bloodstream, and then they perish. They're present in the body to protect us from toxicity. So there is death happening inside of us to keep us alive. How incredibly beautiful is that? The body, in its pure form, is poetry. There's death happening inside of us to keep us alive. Incredibly astounding. Death, one of the most common of all fears, often an aspect of the shadow self, existing to sustain our life form. When I was a little girl, I was very lonely, and so I would project my need for friendship upon objects around me. And one morning I was in the kitchen. I found an orange peel. And this orange peel became my new best friend. I took it up to my room. I nourished her. I spoke with her. I listened to her. We told each other our secrets. She would sit on my nightstand and watch me sleep. And I grew very deeply attached to this beautiful, beautiful orange peel. And then one day she grew very moldy. And so my mom had to throw her away. So my best friend went in the trash, right up there. And that was a dark day for me. It was really dark. I had grown affectionate for this orange peel. It was really my only friend. I know that's a sad story, but it's also beautiful, you know? Because here I was moving through abandonment, isolation, and yet still having the audacity to invite love into my life. And through an orange peel, nonetheless. In your darkness, you couldn't be more beautiful. And this is what is so beautiful about children. If they're not receiving enough love, then they will invent love, and sometimes out of nothing, other times out of an orange peel. They have the audacity in their darkest moments to invite love into their life. One minute they're scared and frustrated, the next moment they're talking to the wall and carrying on an intimate conversation with what appears to be space and matter. Because of this ability, darkness is not often seen as a long-lasting threat to children. They're upset, they're frustrated, they voice their pain, they voice their fear, and then the darkness fades. They're back to looking for fairies underneath rocks and orange peels in the kitchen. Worry gone in an instant. And all of us, we are just children. We are children with deadlines. We're children who pay taxes. We're children with misconstrued projections and perceptions. We're children who were taught not necessarily to get lost in darkness, but to get lost in the threat that is darkness. One moment of worry can expand into weeks, perhaps months of fear. And so we carry this worry with us, and it becomes more of a burden than the actual darkness. For children, you have darkness, and then it's over, you know? And I actually had a few moments of that this year. I had some really deep darkness, and then the next day I was a puppy again. It was over. And it was really refreshing to go, oh, okay, I can experience darkness, and then I can move on from it. It's like riding the waves, you know? And it's actually kind of exhilarating, because darkness, it kind of gets your adrenaline going, and you're feeling like angry and primal. You're feeling powerful for a minute, and then you're back to playing in the sandbox, or for adults paying your taxes, which isn't as exciting. So we need to get more childlike around here, you know. So about a year ago, I had a woman come to me and she said, I want to do one of your sessions with you, because I do emotional integration sessions. And I said, wonderful. So we met for a session. And then she said, I don't want to go into the emotional part of it. And I said, okay, well, we'll just sit down and see what happens. You know, I wasn't really sure what we would do then. But we sat down, and in a few minutes, she started crying. And she said, Mary Allison, you don't understand. I can't be doing this right now. And I said, why not? What's wrong with crying? Because I cry all the time. I love watering my soul. And she said, you don't understand, Mary. I'm a healer. I'm not supposed to do stuff like this. I help people with their pain. I don't deal with pain. She said, I've dealt with my pain a long time ago. I already healed that. It's over. And I said, well, that's okay. And internally, what I thought to myself in that moment was, in her darkness, she couldn't be more beautiful. In her darkness, she couldn't be more beautiful. Here she was moving through vulnerability and speaking her vulnerability to me by telling me her fear around vulnerability. Sometimes, in order to open the heart, you have to be vulnerable. And the best way to be vulnerable is to speak about it. I'm feeling really vulnerable right now. And so the fact that she was doing that to me was very beautiful. In her darkness, she couldn't be more beautiful. And sometimes as we grow into adulthood, we compartmentalize darkness, don't we? We hide it behind our titles, the healer, the celebrity, the preacher, the speaker, the teacher, concealing it behind our resumes, our sports cars, our professionalism, our friendships, our relationships, our enemies. It's very easy to project darkness upon others, especially those who don't have a story, those who we do not understand the psychological implications of. And projections can be fun and enticing, distracting in one moment, but in another moment, they could be very dangerous. They could turn into something like politics, or even worse, a bad SNL sketch. Or one of those community theater events your neighbors made you promise to go to where they're the star. And you kind of don't want to go, but you go, so you like stuff your face with candy, and then you have a hangover the next day. We develop these excuses, these tools to ignore the darkness that we carry. Since when did it become unacceptable or erroneous to carry pain? A wound should not be a portrayal of weakness, but a mark of great strength. And to truly conquer our wounds, we must not try to master them. We must try to seek them out, to learn about them, to understand them. They could be our new best friends. When we befriend darkness, we find out that darkness is solely an internal call for love and acceptance. And so I want to talk about my darkness and how I learned to befriend it. Because when I was a little girl, I was so sensitive. I still am so sensitive. I'm talking sensitive. If I was sitting in a restaurant and there were more than 20 people in there, I would run out crying. And this is in my preteens. This isn't like a little kid. I thought that I was everyone else. I had this, you could call it an issue, a burden. You could call it an awakening. You could call it a psychosis. I had this idea that everyone around me was me, because I felt them so very deeply. I would get lost in their world. Even by simply looking upon them, I would see dismay or depression in someone's eyes and think, oh, that's me. And then I'd see happiness and joy in someone else's eyes, and I'd think, oh, that's me. And I'd get really, really confused. And so I started to see my sensitivity as a burden. I started to hate it. I started to judge myself. I started to walk away from that sensitive part of myself. And as I grew up, I wanted to be dominating and powerful. I wanted to show the world who I was. And so I tried to toss away my sensitivity and turn into some sort of James Bond type character. I wanted to be this beautiful rock star who had tattoos, who had a loud voice, who was very dominating, who could control everything around her, because up until that point, I felt like my life was out of control because I was so sensitive. So in order to do this, and this is true, I do want to warn you, all of my life stories are very odd. So if you ever want to go on a date with me, it's just going to be one odd story after another. And you have to get used to that. Like, this is how my life operates every day. Whoa, why? What is happening right now? And so I joined an Ozzy Osbourne cover band. Yes. This was my idea. This was my philosophy, my theory. If I could be Ozzy Osbourne, there's a dominating factor to that, you know? So I joined this cover band, and at our first show, which was actually our last show, yes, a little disappointing, especially for the audience members, I'll tell you that. Yeah. So for our first show, I thought, I'm gonna end this show with a bang. We were singing Crazy Train, and I bought a fake plastic bat from the Dollar Tree. And I thought, well, I'm gonna do a contribute show to Ozzy. And at the end of the song, I bit the head off of the plastic bat, and I spit it out into the audience. And we actually have this on tape, so if you ever wanna have a viewing party at my house, I don't remember what it looked like. It must have been very interesting. So the bat's head landed on this little girl's seat right in front of me. And she started crying. She was only 6 years old, so the poor thing probably thought it was a real bat or something. And I remember looking at her, thinking, oh, I'm so dominating and amazing, and then I saw the tears come. And then I realized, oh no, this is me. I've spit a bat out upon myself. I want to be sitting with this little girl. I want to be feeling the pain she's feeling, the emotion she's feeling, because she's vulnerable. She's open, she's raw, she's honest. I want to be with her more than I want to be on stage pretending to be Ozzy right now. And so that was a wake-up call for me, because it made me realize my sensitivities, they're precious. And then as I grew up, I got to use my sensitivities in my career. I got to do business consulting, marketing consulting. I would be able to sit down with someone and tell them exactly what their demographic wanted. I was like an emotional translator. So I could feel someone very deeply, and I could use that feeling to create anything from money to fun to joy to a musical collaboration. And I realized that my sensitivities, though sometimes shrouded in embarrassment, pain, and darkness, were actually quite precious. I learned that my sensitive soul was a gateway, a connector, and this gateway could lead me to business endeavors, creative collaborations, or anything of that matter. So I began to befriend my darkness. In your darkness, you couldn't be more beautiful. I learned that my darkness was misunderstood love, a fabric of my soul that had a gift to give, yet felt rejected at every turn. And the day my darkness remembered its beauty was the day I stopped stepping away from the gifts I was once afraid to carry. In your darkness, you couldn't be more beautiful. I want you all to take a quick second right now to close your eyes if you can. Get a little bit comfortable, but not too comfortable. And I want you to visualize yourself as a little child. Take a second. It may have been a while since you've met this child, since you've seen them. And I want you to ask them a question. My love, tell me, what are your wounds? What are what you perceive as your flaws? What have you been burdened to carry? Show me what you feel your weakness is. And take a minute to just sit with that, to talk to this child of yours. And I want you to look that weakness in the eyes and realize its potential. Realize the talent it has been hiding from you. The gift that's been living, hiding in plain sight. Take a minute to find the facets of this darkness, the weakness that you perhaps were told was there. Find the gift in it and hold that gift in your heart. And promise that little child that you're going to use this gift to your full potential. This isn't just a meditation. This is a reconnect with that which we may have lost some time ago. And when you feel ready, you can come back into this room. Thank you for going there with me. Gold, which Egyptians called the breath of God, was generated through the explosion that is a supernova. When the earth was created, iron became most of the earth's core, and inside this core lies precious metals such as gold, platinum, and uranium. To think that the center of the earth, that which is supposed to be the underworld, claimed by many religious texts and myths, contains gold, the breath of God, is precious. Perhaps on some level, the earth is reminding us that some of the most unexplored, darkest parts of our psyche contain some of the most deepest of gifts. In your darkness, you couldn't be more beautiful. The sheer fact that the atoms that create gold come from the explosion that is a supernova is a blessing. Who would have thought the explosion of a star would breed such beauty? In your darkness, you couldn't be more beautiful. So as stars turn to gold, humans sit upon the earth, condemning themselves for their darkness, forgetting that darkness is sometimes the birthplace for beautiful things. Thank you for having me here today.